عليكم مرة أخرى. صباح الخير. Good morning everybody again. I am delighted to have this distinguished number of people around me here to just discuss and chat about various issues relating to the e-payment. Let me very quickly introduce to you my guest here. On the farthest right, Mr. Khalid Hamad, غني عن التعريف. I don't need to introduce him. Sheikh Khalifa Ebrahim next to him is the CEO of Bahrain Bourse and the acting CEO of Bahrain Clear Company. We'll be talking about the role, inshallah, of the Bahrain Bourse in the e-payment and blockchain and these other things. To his left, Mr. Adnan Yousif, who has just delivered to us an extensive speech. Thank you very much, Ahmed. Ahmed, غني عن التعريف تماما. One, probably he has got the longest number of years of serving the banking industry in Bahrain amongst all of us here, maybe over 40 years now. To his next is Mr. Sultan Muqsaybi, a very dear friend of mine. We work together at KCB. He has long experience with other Islamic banks before joining as CEO of Khalid Commercial Bank. And he is here today also to enrich us with his experience and the experience of KCB, who has been pioneering in electronic banking. And hopefully they will be announcing soon about a new product that is e-based. To his left is my dear friend Abdulwahid Janahi. I also work with Abdulwahid Janahi for quite a number of years in GIB. Abdulwahid left in BBK, I'm sorry. In BBK. And then Abdulwahid moved to become the CEO of Benefit, which is a company that is needed by all of us and that has given the market a very important sort of service on credit checking for individuals and as well as corporations later on. So thank you very much, all of you. I will be asking you each a question, and then of course, if you have anything to say more, even outside the question, please feel free. I'll start with Mr. Khalid Hamad. Mohammed, how can regulations keep up with the rapid changes of consumer behavior? How can financial institutions be prepared to evolve in line with changes in consumer expectations?
Hello?
It's working. It's working.
Well, thank you, Butara, for this important question. As you know, in the past, we've seen regulation follow a crisis or follow bad practices. But in the past few years, we've seen the opposite, or we've seen different sort of environment where regulation follows the advancement in technology, and especially those technologies that enhances the customer services, which means follows customers' basically demands or needs. So I think banks going forward needs to basically develop themselves in a way through establishing maybe research units within the banks to be able to study the market, to study the consumer behavior, and whether it's locally and also internationally, so that to be able to keep up with this change and also to be able to develop the right strategy for them going forward.
No, you issue regulations for each change, correct? And these things changes quite quickly. So how do you sort of prepare yourself to make sure that if a change happens tomorrow, regulation will not change tomorrow? Because regulations are issued to basically stay there for long, right?
Well, I mean, the regulatory process is dynamic. What we've seen in the past, let's say 5 years, is that things change so fast that by the time you do something with regard to offering of a service or with regard to regulation, in a few days you will see that what you've done is an obsolete. So you need to dynamically change your regulation to be able to meet the new demands in the market. If you don't do this, then you will lose big time.
That's a major challenge, and also
it is definitely. It's for the past 5 years we were under so many pressures, I mean, within just the last 2 years, 2017 and 2018, we issued hefty, 7 hefty regulations related to the changes in the market when it comes to advancement in technologies.
Hamad, I must salute you and the central bank for keeping this, not only keeping in line with the changes, but also keeping ahead because of the credibility that you have amongst all central banks in the world. I think we must raise the hat for you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me move to Mr. Adnan Yousif. Adnan, you have been investing into technology. How do you ensure that every technology investment you make is future-proof and will evolve with changing customer demands? It is relating to the same question that I asked Mohammed, but I'd like to hear it from the bank's provider's perspective.
Well, from the banking side, from us, if you don't change, you will be behind. You have to take the lead and you have to change because this is now the requirements of the market. Every market, some of the markets are very advanced, some of the markets are still, they are in the process of changing. But you cannot be, as an institution, you cannot be behind. Therefore, we took the initiatives to go along with the changes. And I have to tell you that still we have not identified our return yet, because it is very difficult to identify your return within a very short period. But I believe that this is a product you have to provide it to your customer. And that's why we start a year and a half, like what GIB started here in Bahrain, about the digital banks. And we choose a market which we believe that it is not covered by an Islamic bank, which was Germany. Why? Because we done it through our subsidiary in Turkey, and there are about 4 million German people, or Turkish people in Germany. Some of them, they are Germans. We identify a very good number of customers. Right now, we have about 120,000 customers just from that market. But Tarek, to be frank with you, still I have not seen the break even, or I have not seen a profit out of it. It is a service I have to provide it to my customers. I cannot be behind other institutions.
It means you have to keep the bill open, the check open, because you invest and tomorrow there's something new, you have to reinvest.
Well, the cost also is not like before. When we used to involve in the IT system before, the cost always was very high. And just because I was talking about Turkey, 5 years ago, we spent $20 million to do a full re-engineering on the IT. But for the new IT issue, no, we have not paid big amounts, because the cost of these systems or these programs are, I will not say cheap, but it is not very expensive. But I believe that it will, in the future, break even, and it will show a very good profit. And furthermore, as an institution, you have to provide the best to your customer.
Thank you very much, and wish you all the best, inshallah. Let me move to my friend Abdulwahid Janahi. Abdulwahid, mobile payments are transforming the payment industry. As one of the leading mobile payment providers, how has Benefit Pay improved user experience? What results have you seen to date, and what are your next steps to evolve?
Thank you very much, Tarek. If you allow me just to comment, to follow up on Mr. Adnan in terms of the return on investment when you do or you transfer to digital banking or the online banking. There are a number of challenges, of course, whenever you go to or you want to convert to digital banking. Those challenges can be tackled, for example, by integrating, and connecting the distributed channels to optimize the efficiencies, and reduction of the cost, which allow you to give a service to the customer in a very consistent way. So this also, you need to look at the customer life cycle. So I mean, you have to go and look at to what sort of a customer needs, what sort of a demands. I think that will help you even to retain and to increase the transactions. In addition to that, there are a number of now fintech disrupted models, which I think the bank can utilize that for the purpose of them to complement their service, because those fintech disrupted models are more adapted better towards towards the digital consumers. And besides that, you need to also to automate all those services from the front end and the back end. Whenever you do the digitalization, you need to have both. You know, it's not only you just go to digitize the front end and you don't do the back end. So that will help you in terms of reduction of the cost, and I think it will help you to have a better or more efficient services. So what I am referring here to that, you know, not necessarily you look at the revenue, okay, but also you look at the cost reduction. Okay, so for example, what I'm referring here, well, opportunity cost saving. I think I worked with you and we did a survey. This is something to do with the local commercial bank, where we wanted to compare the cost per transactions for the customer entering the branch, okay, compared to the same transactions done online. So the cost of the bank for a customer getting into the branch, this is an actual figures, by the way, it costs 2 dinar 600 fils compared to 400 fils if you do it online. So the banks really eventually found out that they can save around 2 million to 3 million dinars, which automatically or directly will affect your P&L. So revenue one side and the cost on the other side. When it comes to our mobile or the benefit pay, this was introduced in May or July, I think 2017, with only using the debit card, using the QR technology. But then as we moved on, we added other services, Fawri Plus or FTS, and Fawri Plus, Fawatir, as well as the credit card. Today, the transactions, in fact, what's happening on the e-wallet, it's a tremendous. Okay, it's not up to our satisfaction, but I can share with you some figures. For example, the last 6 months, we had around 500,000 transactions with 33 million dinar. It's just on the e-wallet, and it is increasing.
In the last 6 months?
This is the last 6 months. Yeah, this is an actual figure. And also we are looking ahead to enhance this wallet to include other services, tokenizations or NFC for the mobile banking. So this is, I think, or at least from our perspective, we want to make it some sort of a lifestyle, that includes everything in your mobile, including a remittance, including checking your balance, paying your bills, you locate your favorite restaurant. So this is what we are aiming to.
Thank you very much, Wahed, and I wish you all the best. Let me move to my friend Busleman Sattam. Sattam, are your benchmark for success different to what they were 10 years ago in an era of customer centricity and digitalization?
Thank you, Barak, for the question. I believe the benchmark for success very much lies in a lot of what Mr. Khalid Hamad said earlier in his speech. Being able to adapt to change. We are embarking on an era where a lot of changes are happening in the banking world with the introduction of open banking. And there are a lot of technicalities that business people do not yet understand. But after spending hours and hours with IT specialists, and you take a step back and you try to understand what is really happening, you come to realize that what is happening is actually people are being given choice, and all service providers are in the business of trying to influence human behavior. And if we are a service provider and we're trying to influence human behavior, in the absence of choice, that was easier. Because you can easily force people to do certain things by restricting their options. So if we go back not many years ago, you would ask a customer who walks into a branch to transact through an ATM, or else you're going to charge him a dinar. So in a way, you're bribing him to use your ATM. So it was really driven by denying people choice. Today, with the introduction of open banking, the choice that will be put on the table for the customer is absolutely endless, and your benchmark for success becomes completely different. You have to really understand what it is that makes you different from other providers, and why will this customer. It's no longer about the branch that's next to his house. It's no longer about the friend who works in a certain bank that he feels comfortable dealing with. It's not about where his mortgage financing is, because everything is accessible from his mobile while he's sitting at home. So there must be some other KPIs, some other reasons why a certain client would choose to transact with a certain bank. So absolutely, to answer your question, there is no point in tackling this in installments, I think. And speaking of how to ensure, your earlier question about how to ensure that your plans are future-proof. If you deal with this, with what's coming in installments, you'll always find yourself in a reactive mode, seeing what others are doing, realizing what customers are interested in, and then following that direction. Whereas if you are able to establish a clear strategy as to what it is that you will provide that will change human behavior 2 years down the road. People may still feel comfortable in their space now, but I assure you they won't be that way very soon. So we will be compliant to open banking. Are we going to be compliant and be a spectator while other banks, share information? Or are you going to start using this information, analyzing it in a way to decide what will make that person do this or that? So I think the way to go for us now in terms of gauging our success is our ability to adapt to this change.
Thank you very much, Saddam. Ahmed frightened me a lot because I saw him getting a red card out of his pocket. So I thought he was. So I thought he will kick us out because we exceeded the time. I now move to our guest, Sheikh Khalifa Ebrahim, the CEO of Bahrain Bourse. And the reason I will be asking him this question is to highlight that it is not just the banks who are rapidly boosting their exposure to blockchain. The stock exchanges all around the world are now exploring how best they can leverage the technology invariably as a way to improve costs and efficiency, and to lower risks and tighten security. Sheikh Khalifa, how can stock exchanges utilize blockchain technology to improve customers' experience?
I wish I could answer on blockchain clearly, but it has to do with more with the digital transformation rather than blockchain as a technology. We could tick the box and in month time and we call e-voting using blockchain and just tick the box that we've done it, but the basis is you have to have a strategy for digital transformation which save time, cost, not only for exchange, it's more on any business. And the exchange, it's not only also time and cost, it's the objective. So we need to know the what, the why, and the how. So why do we need it? It's not only time and cost, we need more accessibility to more access to investors in the capital market, more automation between the issuers and the exchange to make the ongoing obligations more effortless on them, and it will benefit Bahrain Bourse as well. And more so, how you develop the mindset within the organization to move into a digital era. And I think this is missed in many places where there is specific initiatives done just to tick the box, and I think the issue remains or would be remain this way unless there is a collective debate or a collective discussion between the stakeholders, especially in the case of Bahrain Bourse, on how to improve it. So I wish I could say blockchain is beneficial or not. It definitely decentralized the post-trade environment, and therefore we need to make sure there is a risk control before we move into blockchain. And I just want to add one more point on the future-proof concept. The system itself needs to be thought of extensively before implementing the cheapest system, for example, or the easier to implement. Rather, I would say it's better to spend more for a few years and have a scalable system that could scale over time, rather than a system that would solve your short-term goal and then you end up having an issue later on.
Thank you very much, Ebrahim. There are questions posted on the screens in front of us on slido.com. I'll take them one by one, and I'll leave the floor for my guest to volunteer answering any of them. The first question says, should and how? Okay, it has changed. Okay, there was a new question that comes, so that question became second now. Okay, so should and how can the regulatory body be independent of government influence? Who's best to answer this question? Sorry. So the question says, should and how can the regulatory body be independent of government influence? Somebody who will volunteer to answer the question, or shall I appoint someone?
I can, okay. I can answer it. We're an SRO, self-regulatory model, and I think the CBB also are independent in a sense. There is an open discussion, and you don't find that in many other central banks. There is open discussion with the industry, there are consultation papers, and there is a continuous efforts by the regulators to hear the feedback and implement the regulation according to the market conditions. So I just don't understand the question clearly of government influence. Yeah.
Well, I mean, from the central bank point of view, worldwide, central banks are established by law, and the law establishing central banks always have an article in that law which says the central bank is an independent government body. But of course, you cannot ensure total independence, but at least at a comfortable level. For example, most of the decisions are made by central bank management or central bank board, at least in our case. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Here's the...
sorry, but it also says should a government body be independent, and I don't think that a regulator should be completely independent of government. I mean, there are certain national initiatives that you want regulatory bodies to embody and promote. And open banking, open everything, is something that we want the government to pursue and to encourage regulators to adopt, whether it's telecom regulator or any other regulators.
Thank you very much. Here's a nice question I liked very much. I'd like to ask it to the bankers in particular. It says, what has been a game-changing innovation for your customer experience? I'd like to hear the answer to this question from the bankers around me here. So, shall we start with you, Musliman?
To be honest, I don't think we have yet seen a game changer. Banks have been competing on service, on rates, on speed. We are yet to see a complete transformation in what drives customer behavior. And we are still competing in a very conventional manner. We are just scratching the surface in terms of what is being offered. Even the new technologically driven solutions that are brought to the table, you are still at the end of the experience encountered by an event that reminds you that you're still in the real world and we are not yet there. So I think we are yet to see that.
Ahmed, would you like to add?
I think that, customers these days is different from customers in the, few years ago. I think now they are demanding, and you cannot stop the change. You have to do the changes. You have to be ahead to enable you to satisfy them. You know that just if you go back 20 years ago, I remember that a credit card was not used like now. Electronic payment, it was just recently. And people are talking, of a lot of changes. I think that institutions, whether they are banks or other, including the government, they have to change. As an example, if I want to go and change my passport or my driving license, I have to go to the government. Now I think that through the electronic issues, you can change, many of these. Maybe one day also your passport, maybe you don't need it. You can travel with your card, and it has all the information there. So changes is there. Government has to change. We as an Islamic bank, we have also to change our thinking, because as I say earlier, in the old days, when I sell a car, I have to own the car and then I sell it to them. I have to put my hand on the car and then I sell it. But with the electronic, there is nothing. I mean, you own it through the computer. The system talk to the systems. So you have to change. Change is coming, whether maybe today, tomorrow, but the change is there. And the banks has to sacrifice by investing a lot to enable them to satisfy the customers. But change is coming. I mean, whether we like it or not, and it will be very costly for the institutions. And we have to apply it. I'll tell you something. I used to use Nokia, which was produced 10 years ago. Everybody know me. When they sit with me, they see my telephones. 2 days ago, I changed it. I have now a new one.
That's a big change.
I have this one now. Okay? Why? But still I have the problem is I leave it where I go. Because Nokia, nobody will steal it. This one, it will be taken by anybody. The change is there. People are changing. People are taking, the lead. An institution has to take the lead. Yeah, Mabruk, yeah, but I'm afraid that, I might, leave it.
Khalid, Hamad,
لا تفضل
تفضل خالد بعدين.
Well, I mean, this question is really interesting because it takes me long years back, right? Not in terms of my age, but in terms of the development of the industry. If you look, for example, in the 1950s, we saw the innovation coming into the credit card business, right? In the 1960s, we saw the ATM machines coming, but not exactly the same ATMs now. It was manned ATM, right? And in the 1970s, we saw electronic trading on the exchanges. And 1980s, we saw mainframe computers being really used at that time. In the 1990s, we saw the internet, and we saw the internet banking and the e-commerce and so on. All of these changes didn't really make any sort of pressure on the banks, i.e. no threat on the banks, right? But for example, the past, let's say 5 years, we've seen significant changes in the technologies to the extent that you cannot keep pace with them, right? And I think the customer experience so far tells us that customers want to use their mobile. They don't want to go to the bank. They want to sit home. They want to walk and do their own banking.
That's
right? So that's the game changer today. But tomorrow there's two things which will probably change the landscape. That's straight through processing. Yes. And the second one is open banking. This will make significant changes on the banks. And if you don't start from today, you will be late, tomorrow.
Only thank my God that I've retired from banking.
I just want to add to what our fellows mentioned in terms of the change. I think it's an ongoing process. Change happened years back, change is happening today, and change will happen tomorrow. I mean, look, for example, we've been talking about open banking, something which has happened outside this region, but I think it's coming very soon. And there's a lot of talks happened in the recent days about how the bank's going to go about it, how they're going to deal with the with the suppliers who already, we have one of the excellent companies who they've been mentioned. I don't want to promote them, but they're already in Bahrain. So it's happening. I mean, in terms of the change. Now, I mean, why you want to make a change? Okay, you want to give some sort of a convenient. You want to provide simple solutions to the customer. So I always like to use our local market as an example. Let's talk about the check truncation, for example. The check truncation, it used to be processed and cashed within 2 to 3 days. Now with the check truncation system, it says processed in the same day. So if you deposit your check let's say in the morning, then you get the balance in your account in the afternoon, compared to the 3 to 4 days. The money transfer, something that we have in Bahrain, for example, that says as a mandate, the money transfer should be within 30 seconds. But now it's happening between 6 to 7 seconds on the average. So it's happening, the change. I mean, those are all the things that I think we have to look at the customer experience, what their expectation.
Thank you very much, Abdulwahid. Let me take one last question from the Slido.com, and then I'll open the floor for a couple of questions from the audience if they'd like to ask that question. I'll take this question because it maybe needs some numbers, some data to be able to answer it. It says, what is the percentage of cashless payment in Bahrain? And what is the goal to be reached in the next 3 to 5 years? Maybe I'll ask Mr. Hamad to address the question because they may have the information available with the Central Bank of Bahrain.
I don't have the data out of my mind now, but what we notice is basically now is that there is an increase in the use of e-channels for payments, so which is cashless, and we've seen also a reduction on the use of cash according to our data. Our plan is basically to push for more use of non-cash payment systems, and that's why we have allowed so many companies to be acquirers. We allowed so many companies to introduce new systems. We are currently thinking of even in advancing these systems of payments, and hopefully we will achieve something there. So within the 3 to 5 years, we plan to see that if you go, for example, to the farmers in Budaya Road, right? We would like to see those farmers to be accepting, payment through e-channels or through whatever acquirers there using non-cash.
I think we still have a long way to go in terms of reaching the non-cashless society of Bahrain. If I compare Bahrain to other countries in the West, for instance, they are almost 95 to 98% cashless. In Bahrain, 5 years ago, this ratio was about half-half, I would say, even more than half cash and less than half cashless. Today, I don't know what happened in the last 5 years, but with the evolving of stronger credit card services in the country, with the evolving of other way of payments, I think this should be now in the whereabouts of 70-30 probably. 70 cash, 30 non-cash, maybe. I'm just thinking up loudly, so I don't know the exact answer for this. So thank you very much. Let's just see if there are other questions from the audience that would like to be asked, because I don't want to keep my host for much longer than this. Anybody has got any question?
There is a question on the back over there.
I'm sorry, the lighting is not very, very well there. So please, yes. Please introduce yourself. Is there a microphone to be taken to the gentleman?
Yes, we're on our way now.
All right. Please introduce yourself and then ask the question. And if you want anyone in particular to address the question, please say.
So thank you for giving me the opportunity. I am the CEO of DNO Group, and we have a spin-off called DTM, which is If Integration Business. And I wanted to make a couple of comments and then ask a question. And the comment was, I have had interaction with central bank, and I see the central bank is very forward-looking. So I'm very, very happy that there is a forward-looking approach from the central bank. The question that I wanted to ask is, you see open banking, we're talking about open banking. Sorry, I have a cough. So what we see in markets like UK, for example, you have a lot of digital bank coming into the marketplace. And I see them, at least some of them, getting into regulatory problem because they're very, very lenient on account opening, and their KYC, et cetera, is not that stringent. So I think FCA has given them a long rope today, but eventually they will have some issues. So I think, and also their return on investment is negative today because per account they're losing money. Now the question I was going to ask is, I think there has to be a standardization of regulation. So let's say if Central Bank of Bahrain was to take a lead and say, look, this is the scope of regulation when it comes to AML, KYC, then onboarding of accounts or onboarding of clients become easier because then the compliance officer at a bank does not have its different interpretation than a different bank. So I think for open banking to happen, I think the regulator will probably have to facilitate that by standardizing a regulatory tech structure. So you have people who are doing eKYCs and things like that, but then again, there is a risk. If you take a legal opinion, various law firms will give you different interpretation. So I wanted to ask the gentleman from Central Bank, and because I appreciate they're very forward-looking, if this is an area that the central bank will be focusing on. That's the question.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for this important question. We take money laundering and terrorist financing very seriously, and we always ensure that we are in line with the FATF recommendations, and we take no sort of risk on this. This is important because it means confidence, it means trust, it means resilience, it means that foreign investment can come to Bahrain, and it means that local resident in Bahrain can deal confidently with the banking industry. So we don't take this lightly. Now, in every sort of solution that a bank would like to introduce with regard to onboarding customers, it has to go through a lengthy process. Some of you who are here who are banks who have dealt with us in introducing some digital channels for onboarding, and they appreciated how rigorous and robust the process is. But at the end of the day, we always appreciate and recognize the importance of innovation. So we are willing to entertain and facilitate the onboarding through digital channels, provided that there are enough security, enough protection to ensure that the banks or the licensees will not onboard bad customers. And recently, with the benefit company, we've launched the eKYC project. This eKYC project will also facilitate the onboarding and also the monitoring by the licensees, namely the banks, on ensuring that the customers present their data in an efficient way and a faster way, and also without really hindering the quality of the measures.
Sure, Hamad. We are running out of time. There is time for one short question, please. The gentleman over here.
محمد الغسرة بسأل بالعربي. ما هي الوظائف التي سوف تنتهي بسبب إي بيمنت؟ وما هي الوظائف الجديدة التي تطرح على القطاع؟ وهل القطاع على استعداد التدريبي لها مستقبلا في ظل شح الوظائف؟ شكرا.
شكرا لك. We'll address this question in Arabic. هاي طبعا يتصور الأخ محمد من الصحافة صح؟ نعم، فلازم تكون حذرين في الإجابة.
خلي عدنان يرد عليه.
هو كل يوم هي عندي في المكتب، يعني أنا متعود عليه لا يخاف. هو أكيد أن أي تغيير يحدث في بعض الأشياء سوف تطلع من البانكينج يعني هنا ايام زمان كنا نشوف في البنوك وقت ما ندخل في مكان خاص لعمليات الفورين كرنسيز، تحويلات ما تحويلات وذي الاشياء، هذه على ما اعتقد شبه تقريبا انتهت او في يعني في امور سوف تنتهي. الكاشيرز مثال بسيط، ايام زمان كنا نشوف تقريبا حتى نعرف ان البنك كبير، عدد الكاشير اللي موجودين في الكاونترز، فكل ما كان العدد كبير كل ما كان البنك يعني عنده هذه. الان لا اظن الكاشير سوف يعني يكون موجودين او العدد مالهم سوف يكون قليل جدا. فكثير من الامور سوف يعني تنتهي بهذه الحدث. وهذه اصلا التغييرات ما صارت كذلك محمد في موضوع البيمنت، حتى في الاجراءات الجمعيات العموميه الان. الحين الجمعيات العموميه حتى صارت التصويت يصير عن طريق الالكترونيك. فيعني انت جاي في مرحله كبيره. الحين حتى مثل البنك المركزي، لو انت خذيت البنك المركزي من حوالي 6-7 سنوات او اكثر، حتى بدل القوانين الخاصه بالجمعيات العموميه، ادخل فيه الالكترونيك. حتى البورد، حضور مجالس الادارات الان ما ولت تحضر بنفسك، تقدر تحضر عن طريق الفيديو كونفرنس، عن طريق التليفون، وهذه ليجلي والتصويت مالك ليجلي. فاشياء كثيره سوف تحدث وسوف تخلق تغييرات، ولكن الوظائف اللي بتقل في مكان سوف تزيد في جهه ثانيه. فاوفر اول العدد ما بيكون ذاك الكبير اللي مثل تقول يعني بيطلع من البانكينج. البانكينج ستيل الفوكس ماله اللي هو موضوع اخذ الودائع واعطاء التمويلات. هذه يعني بتكون المين انجن حق البنوك، كانت اليوم او حتى المستقبل. يعني ما اظن يوم من الايام بنشوف شركات الكبيره تصير عملياتها عن طريق الاي باي سيستمز، لان هذه مبالغ كبيره وتحتاج الى دراسات وتحتاج الى جلوس مع المتخصصين.
شكرا لك اخو احمد. خلي بس اعطي حق السلطان.
انا الحقيقه ما اختلف مع ابو احمد في كلامه، وقد ينتج بعض يعني فقدان بعض الوظائف، وقد يعني الواحد ما يقدر يحط عليها عدد. لكن اعتقد ما قد يحصل نتيجه عدم استطاعه الافراد من موظفين البنوك التاقلم مع الفكر الجديد اكثر من ما قد يحدث بسبب ان التكنولوجيا حلت مكانهم في وظيفه معينه. فاليوم يمكن الخطر هو فهم النظام الجديد والتاقلم معه. ما اتخيل موظف يعمل في مجال معين في بنك وفاهم التغيير اللي قاعد يحصل وهو عنصر فعال ويقدر يفيد هذا التغيير، راح يفقد وظيفته بغض النظر عن مكانه في المؤسسه، سواء كان كتيلر او كان في الاوبريشنز او كان في، طول ما هو يستطيع ان يدفع هذه العجله الى الامام، فاتوقع ان في له مكان في هذه الصناعه. الخطر يقع على الشخص اللي يرفض التأقلم مع هذا التغيير.
شكرا. محمد بتقول شيء؟
تفضل. لا باحتلال ابدا. لا كله واحد.
طبعا هو سؤال جدا مهم، وكثير من الاقتصاديين يعني يثيرونه والصحفيين يثيرونه، ولكن يعني في نظري يعني التطور التكنولوجي اللي قاعد يصير راح يؤدي الى اظهار يعني مهارات جديده لها علاقه بهالتطور التكنولوجي، وليس يعني ان المهارات هذه ان شخص يكون يعني اي تي، لا، ولكن يعني راح تكون هناك يعني كل واحد في مجاله لابد انه هو يطور من مهاراته ليواكب هذا التغيير. فبالتالي على سبيل المثال ان اليوم المصرفي اذا شافوا البنك بعد ما تطورت مثلا بعض البروسيجر عندهم وصارت آلية، بالتالي يمكن قد لا تكون الحاجه اليه موجوده، لكن الحاجه اليه موجوده في مكان، في موضع اخر، اللي هو وين؟ اللي هو المطورين اليوم اللي هم ذلين اللي يشتغلون في الاي تي، هذه يمكن ما يعرف التفاصيل الدقيقه حق كيف تتم المعامله المصرفيه. الشخص هذا صار له مثلا 20 50 30 10 سنوات، عنده الخبره، فبالتالي قد يكون هناك في يعني تحول من بعض الموارد من البنوك او من اي قطاع الى قطاعات اخرى اللي هي تطور هاي الشيء. فبالتالي موضوعين مهمين، هو موضوع التحول في الوظائف من مكان الى مكان، وايضا زياده المهارات للاشخاص اللي عاملين في القطاع.
Just to add to the point of a game changer, احنا البورصة in the context of Bahrain Bourse, after the session, I think there is a product that will be launched under Bahrain Trade with the KHCB. And this product basically would link banking with the capital market in a sense that anyone that has an IBAN account will be able to register and trade in the capital market in few clicks. If there is a game changer in our context, it's the Bahrain Trade or Khalid Trade today, Khalid E-Trade. More banks are joining, and I think that's going to be a game changer.
Thank you very much. شاكر لكم حضوركم واهتمامكم. للأسف الوقت وايد ضايقنا، طفنا الوقت المحدد لنا، فشاكر لكم. Thank you very much. Time has pressed us, and I thank my guests. Thank you very much for your